Major places, dude. Like,
Yeah, we're very close. Yeah, that's how we relax.
see this project?
Yeah, every Sunday morning there's another class.
Ja, ja. Jullie gisteren.
Was het class 11?
Thank you so
From
much.
Israel?
Morning.
Chicago.
You? I was literally before Chicago.
Oh, okay. That's from Detroit.
Detroit. Detroit. Could you talk?
Rabbi Morozov, good morning.
Good morning.
I was successful this morning. Not only did I make the meeting, but I was here on time.
Gula is coming.
Yeah.
Gula is coming.
Yeah.
The Gula is coming. Ari. The Gula is coming.
I did not make a victory.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You can still do it
for tomorrow.
You can do it now. Yeah, I mean, go after it.
Feels like an eternity ago when I was in Israel.
Yeah.
It was so full of blessings.
Yeah.
Like a week and a half ago, I came back.
Check. Phone shot in the lane. And the flu. Sit down.
Chaim l'chaim. What a beautiful morning it is. That we spoke Shabbos about Hashkem v'Harav Aleim, and that's talking what everyone's doing. This morning is a beautiful. We started off with a beautiful oilam. Dave Shahalfen Tzidda said, the Lubavitcher Rabbeim said that Shabbos Bereshis is special. Azoy v'misteltzach Shabbos Bereshis. Azoy geht es a ganze Jahr, the whole year. It sets the tone from Shabbos Bereshis, and definitely the Sunday of Shabbos Bereshis has a connection. As you see, we spoke about it Shabbos morning that we have the Haftorah this week was not the regular, was Mocha Chodesh, because whenever Sunday is the Rosh Chodesh, we read instead of the regular Haftorah Mocha Chodesh. Like just to found a word. Siddur says that the Kedusha of Rosh Chodesh is an unbelievable Kedusha in Rosh Chodesh. But when Rosh Chodesh is on a Sunday, there's an extra special Kedusha. Quantified, we learned at the Maimer, but there's an extra special that Ebbe points out that you're always going to have a Sunday. It's after Shabbos Bereshis. You're going to have a Sunday Rosh Chodesh when you have Rosh Hashanah Shecholis b'Shabbos. Because the Rosh Hashanah Shecholis b'Shabbos is something very special. So we end up Mishteltzach Avek Shabbos Bereshis with a unbelievable kedusha Rosh Chodesh that it's very strong. That'll give us a koyach for the whole year. The truth, I was thinking about it. There's the Mata Ephraim says that on Shabbos sometimes we say Zeichel Etzis Mitzrayim, sometimes we say Zeichel L'Maisa Bereshis. See, in Shabbos, there's two nekudas: the Zeichel Etzis Mitzrayim and Zeichel L'Maisa Bereshis. In this week, Shabbos Bereshis, you see it clearly. We read all about how the Eibusha created the world, Zeicher L'Maisa Bereshis, and the Haftorah was Mocha Chodesh. What's the Mocha Chodesh? The mitzvah Rishon Shenetztava by Yisrael, which is connected with going out of Mitzrayim. So Zeichel Etzis Mitzrayim. So this Shabbos we had Begolui, Zeichel Yitzias Mitzrayim and Zeichel L'Maisa Bereshis. So we start with a good footing, and David Shalom should have Atzloch and Avodas Hashem the entire year. Okay, this week I decided to pick 3 shilas, even though I had in my mind a few other shilas people asked, but L'Zeicher for those Kedoshim that already fell, and the Hoya Loitir they shouldn't Loitokim Pamayim Tzora, and that there should now be such a Atzloch against our enemies. That they should be that the high pachad yesivna to ever chas v'shalom want to touch a Jew again. Definitely, by learning the sugya, the Israeli government is not coming to me and you and ask these 3 questions, but still, it's good to be done in Torah. I was telling someone Ashgacha Pratis on Friday afternoon, I was learning the sugya, and I see in my phone, they say Tehillim because IDF soldiers are going. So I said, I'm going to say some Tehillim and get straight back to the sugya to learn it weiter and weiter, because this is the sugya that's Negei and Torah. The Torah has a certain pull on the world, and the Yishalmi says that when the Bezin paskins, so then the Gashmi is the person's. So, okay. First question is a very old, unfortunate question in Klal Yisrael, a very painful question about how to negotiate for hostages, and people are very quick to say and to criticize. For example, like Gilad Shalit was a few years ago. there was a deal where 1,000 terrorists were let free for one Jewish soldier. People are very quick to criticize it, and myself included, until I learned the sugya. Myself included. Right away you say, truth is, it feels very wrong. And if it's wrong and right, we'll learn the sugya, and everyone will make their own decision. Since, like I said, I didn't have to pass from the shaila. Just kedai to look at the sugya.
What happens that the mastermind behind this whole thing was in Israeli custody, and he was released, and the Gilad Shalit to deal.
Yeah, this is Nageya. This is a very important point that will come up when we'll talk L'maisa. Yeah, it's a very important point. Okay, so let's back up to the Mishnah and the Gemara and the Shailas Atruvis. Obviously, there is a famous story about the Maram Rothenberg that evoked this a lot of admiration to Gedolei Yisrael about the self-sacrifice that and on this sugya. So let's get into it. Let's read a little bit the Gemara. Oisis Machimis. We have a copy. If you don't have a copy, I have plenty of extra copies. Let me know. Let's start reading. The Gemara says in Gittin Daf Mem Hey. The Gemara says, "Ein poidem es ashwin yeser al kei demeim mipnei tikun oil." Sagt die Gemara Bayelahu Haim mipnei tikun oilam mishum duchke de tzibura hu oim midilma mishum de loy lagarbe veleise tvei klema shabayim yishboid misrol biyalos mechir shalapidin. What's that when Chazal said that you can't be poid the yosem kedei demeim? Is it because duchke de tzibura there'll be nothing left in the community's pockets, or is it that it's a dangerous game? Today they're going to want this amount of money, and then they're going to want more money and more money and more money, and there's no end. And they're taiva because they're going to have a taiva to capture more yidden. Think about it. And
Isn't that one of the same?
huh?
Isn't it essentially one of the same?
The Rashi says it's an afkemina. This is what the Rashi says in a second. Toshma the Levi bar darge parke labrate beteleisar alfe din rezov. His daughter was in captivity, and he spent 13,000 din rezov. It's not so clear, because so he was a person that I guess he was an Adam Afursim. So, but Abaye says that just because it's an Adam Afursim, who asked? He didn't ask Chazal. Maybe he asked Chazal. Maybe he didn't ask Chazal. So we don't know. It's Nishkanaya. Apparently, he was a big person, but still, he wasn't an Amoida or a Tana. And Abaye said that Lav Dafka was Berotzon Chachamim. Dilma Shaloi Berotzon Chachamim. Benafkemina Ladina Mishnei time because of Rashi, like you just pointed out. What's an afkemina? The two reasons. L'choyre the same. Im yesh loy av oshir oikorev sheroitze libdoise bedamim harbe velo yapilu ala tzibur. The kan loy shayech atam ishum duchke de tzibur, but tam shayne the lig beru velesi tvei shayech that his father wants to spend a lot of money. His father wants to spend a lot of money on his son. So there's not shaykh to say that you're impoverishing the kehila, but still there is the chash that they're going to want to capture Jews dafke because the price is going up and up and up. And then there's another Gemara. The Gemara is in Ksubis. His wife was in captivity, and they wanted 10 times the amount what she's worth. By the way, in the days of the Gemara, the value of a person was very simple. You look what it was worth b'shuk shel avodim. The Shulchan Aruch talks about it, and the Shulchan Aruch asks, in countries where we don't have a shuk shel avodim, we don't have, most of the world today, there isn't a shuk shel avodim. So how are you supposed to evaluate it? Most places can say it doesn't matter. Since the Gemara said that the value is b'shuk shel avodim, you go to some corner in the world where there is a shuk shel avodim, and you evaluate based on that part. What's the value of a person b'shuk shel avodim? So this guy, his wife was captured, and the shuk shel avodim say she's worth $100, and now they're asking for $1,000. Pamri shoyna poida. Become ve'elach rotza poida rotza ein poida. Shum gamliel oimer ein poida mesashrum yoisal kedei demei mipnei tikuna oilam. And pligi rishonim yesh soivrim halacha kir b'shum gamliel. That the halacha is that he's not allowed to redeem even his own wife more than she's worth. The Rambam holds away the Rif and the Rashba brought in the Beis Yosef. We'll see in a second in your day summation of Beis. There are Rishonim that say that the suffix, that there's still the suffix, the original suffix in the Gemara was never nifshat. So there are, one second, there's three big Rishonim that hold that halacha is like Reb Shimon Gamliel. And because with Shimon Gamliel, it was talking about a man and his own wife, and he said he's not allowed to redeem her for more than she's worth. Shema mina that the halacha is the lo legar beveles. So that's the way they pass in. The Rambam passing away, Shulchan Aruch passes that way, and the Shulchan Aruch always, if the Rambam and Adif go one way, he's going to pass in that way anyway. So it's a foregone conclusion, and that's it. The Tosfos, and that's always the gripe that the Ramah will have with the Beis Yosef, that you don't give enough representation to the Balei HaTosfos. The Tosfos held, and the Rosh held, no, that the halacha is not like Reb Shimon Gamliel, and therefore the suffix, we still have a suffix. We still have now within that, as you'll see in a minute, there's a machloikis. The suffix that we still have is only Lagabi his wife or Lagabi every Yid. Yeah, you wanted to say something.
Oh, that's halacha because today we don't think that, but even that it's good. So that's how we go in the Chicago. What? Let's see in America, the head goes on dots. Thank you.
Yeah, but what happens if in the whole America there's no shuk shel avodim? Yeah.
Do you go put it in the black market if there's a black market?
If there's a black market?
Yeah.
Human trafficking?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Rabbi, I got a question. Today, these hostages, the Hamas want people for them, not money.
True. We'll get to people in a minute. Let's first establish what's the din lagabi money. Then we'll get to the people.
Uh-huh.
The Shulchan Aruch in Yeridei Rishon and Beis says, "Ein poidem ashrim yoysim ekidei demeim b'nei tikul oilam shalo yoyim moisim atzam alayim l'shaboisim." Aval adam yochel liftas as atzam b'chol ma sheyirtze. If a person wants to redeem himself, as much as he wants, he could spend. V'chein l'talmid chacham. He's allowed to spend for a Talmud Chacham as much as he wants. Afilo ain't a Talmud Chacham. Elush Talmud Chorif. Ve'ev sheshi adam gadol poin ma'asem adam merubim. And then the Ramah says, "Im ishte ke'achar dami oiloi ayin tur even ezes siman ayin ches." So we see from here that the Shulchan Aruch and that the Shulchan Aruch holds only himself he could redeem, or a Talmud Chacham for more money. But the Ramah is going to bring later in the other opinion that even his wife, he's allowed to redeem for 10 times the money. Now, not he's obligated, but he's allowed to. Okay? The Shach writes, Mashma fila kroivoi ain't poidem b'yoysim erdei damim. They take an oilam. It's Mashma from the Shulchan Aruch that his other relatives, he's not allowed to spend more money. V'chei Mashma medesayim, aval yochel v'deisas atzmai, Mashma dafke atzmai. Aval habach posek the Rashi livdois a yoysim erdei demein bein lebitoi v'kroive v'chol adam v'moichin kiven the leka duchke v'tzibure v'kolshkin de moichin shaba livdas as ishte el de mechayven livdas as ishte v'yoysim erdei demein v'chein abadabah. So explain. The Shach says that we are going with again the Beis Yosef holds that the Gemara already answered the question that the law legar bevelei, so you're never allowed to spend an extra nickel unless it's a person for himself or for a Talmud Chacham, as we'll see soon why. But the Ramah wasn't convinced that the Gemara came to a conclusion, so we're not convinced that the Gemara came to a conclusion. So a person could always say, the Gemara didn't say which way is at the end. The Gemara has a suffix. So I want to say like one side in the Gemara. So therefore, a person has the right to redeem, according to the Ramah, his wife, and according to the Bach and the Shach Paskin, that way any Jew, if it's not Duchke the Tzibure, for Yosim Kedemei.
Everything we've learned so far as individuals. Here we're talking about a government. Is that all of these Koros haven't dealt where the government, the Malchus, is.
We'll talk about it soon. Let's leave it to the end.
Okay.
We want to go through
that would be the Halacha L'Maaseh.
Right. One more piece that's important, the Gemara, that's very important here, and all the Rishonim talk about this. The Gemara in Gittin says a story. He went to a Krach Godel in Noemi. You think the payas, the beautiful payas that Yidden have in Taiman or Ksidim that come from Galicia is a thing that started yesterday? It seems from the Gemara that it was already existing 2,000 years ago. So and he said a pasuk. And the child answered him also a pasuk. He said, "Meet and Yaakov Meshisa," and the child answered that we have to do tshuva. So he was so impressed that the kid was himself in the base of Surim, and the kid says that we have to do tshuva. So he said, "Muftachani by shemoida hira b'Yisrael, avoida she'eni zaz mekam ad shevdenu b'chol mo'akim moment shepoiskin alav." Rabbi Shimon Hananya made a shvua. He's not going away from that city until he's going to get this kid in his hands. Doesn't matter how much money it'll cost. Amru lo zaz misham ad shevadu b'momen harbe v'lo yomim mo'atim ad shehoida hira b'Yisrael amanu Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Wow. So all the Rishonim have a big problem with this Gemara. So you see that you're allowed to redeem someone for more money. So there's three answers.
That wasn't a ransom. Maybe it just held the kid for whatever, criminal purposes. And he came there, he heard, it wasn't shot.
This is all going to be in the Rishonim. So this is... I'm bringing the three terutzim that are the most, that are obvious and that are in Tosfos. And really, the answer, whichever answer you think is the answer, that's going to be very negei halacha. The three basic answers. The first answer is a Talmid Chacham or potential Talmid Chacham is different, and this is going to be very relevant. Soon we'll talk about this with the story of the Maram Rottenberg. The first, and that answer seems to be what the Shulchan Aruch holds, because Shulchan Aruch only brings this as a yotzim and a klal. So in my mind, I think it's very clear that the Shulchan Aruch held that this was the only answer. That's it. The second answer that there is, that's interesting answer Tosfos gives, that the whole idea, the lagar bevelesa, they're going to capture more Jews, it's a rational thing, but it doesn't always apply. In the time of the Churban, they were killing and capturing any Jew anyway. So what are you going to say? They're going to pay more money. They're going to capture any Jew they can grab. They're grabbing anyway. So what are you going to say? If you're going to pay more money, they're going to have a taiva to grab more Jews. Any Jew they can kill, they kill. Any Jew they can sell as a slave, they sell as a slave. You know how many hundreds of thousands of Jews were sold in slavery? It was a calamity that the Rebbe writes in a letter to someone that in proportion might have been Rahman al-Islam more painful and a bigger blow than the Holocaust. So in the amount of Yidden that were then in the world. So that's not shaykh lagarbe v'leisi. The third answer that Tosfos gives, and this is the big one, but Sakonas Nefashis is different. That he knew that this child, his life is in danger. And because Rabbi Hananya knew that his child is in danger, therefore, when Sakonas Nefashis, all bets are off. You could spend as much as you want. It's a very shveret teretz. This is very contentious. The Ramban argues. The Ramban brings a Gemara Meforeshet. The Gemara says that in Baba Basra that every shavui, you never know. That with Goyim, you never know if he's in a Goyish prison, that his life could be in danger.
Well, now in this matzah we know.
So the Meiri Take answers for Tosfos side that he says there's a difference. There is shvi sheikra lamaman, ein b'chshash misa. It depends. Why is it that the Goyim are trying to capture like pirates? They want to capture people to sell them as slaves, or is it that they're Rahman al-Islam want to kill you? Elamai, if you're going to negotiate with them, maybe you'll give them a certain amount of money, but that's not what they're out for. So the Meiri does really hold like Tosfos. The bottom line is it's a very shvere shaila. How should you paskin? Again, as I said, in my mind, it's clear that the Shulchan Aruch paskin like the first teretz in Tosfos, because that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Shulchan Aruch says that there's one exception for Talmid Chacham. You could spend more money for yourself and for Talmid Chacham. So that's clear. But the shaila is halacha. What's takad halacha? So turn the page. There's a big machloikis that's between two of the big Ashkenazi poskim. Again, I think Aliba Desvardim would be clear what the halacha is. But among the Ashkenazi poskim, it's brought in the Piskei Teshuvos right there in the Yoreh Deah Siman Eish Nun Beis. And you turn the page, you'll see the law.
Let me ask you: is the differences in opinion between Ashkenazim and Sephardim? If you look at the difference of the realities each face?
No, I don't think so. Nah, I think it's just the way they learned the sugya. I don't feel that way. And on this issue, that we're going to talk now, maybe. On this one, you'll see a little bit. But It's just how you learned the Rambam learned the sugya and the Rif learned the sugya one way, and I don't see it so much. Halacha, the Marshal writes in Gittin like Tosfos, and he writes, "So Idna Anshi Yisrael Goim Lechasadim Ba'artzes to Grama." In Turkey, he says, the Yidden are unbelievable special people, the Jews in Turkey. The Sviva said, "Poidem es Ashum Yosef Yosef Machdei Demem Vatrem al Kid Tzibura Hashem Yosef Lam al Skarim Gam be Yosef Baven Seno Rabin Leisatan Ismatu Yisrael Begoyle Yeshlochish al Shadis Apleite about the Chav V'Shalom Rechelas Yisrael Umagam Leis Kazesh Makbidem al Shvu Yisrael Beinuim V'Sunim Koshim Lekefum Laver al Dosam Lachal Shabbos V'Yonti Shel Yitzera V'Af Yeshlochishim Leivdem Shem Yehargam Hashevim Leroya Libam." It's unbelievable. And he says the Poel Mamish, the minig in Turkey was that the Kehilas in Turkey used to be Jewish people that used to get sold Shalavodim in Turkey. And he says that the Yidden in Turkey were unbelievable. They used to pay for Jews Mamish and they were relying on Shittas HaToisfos. So that's, and then he brings the story. It's unbelievable. He brings the story of the Maram Rothenberg. You have to head a chiddush. The whole Welt learns a story like this. Maram Rothenberg was trying to get out of Germany, and there was a Meshumah that saw him. He told the king. He was arrested. Aloy oval b'kapav. He did nothing. All he tried to do was to escape persecution. And the Melech put him bebeis hasurim, and he's demanded a credible amount of ransom. So the Jews collected the money, this big Talmud Rosh Berosham, and he refused to go out. He said he evoked this din. So the whole Welt fragt, what do you mean? But he was a Talmud Kochen, so is it different? So everyone says midas chassid shanukan. He was a chassid. I was different. The Marshal doesn't like that teretz. He doesn't bring it. I'll tell you why I think he doesn't like it. He says, I don't understand. How come the Maram didn't let himself go out of prison? In other words, he doesn't like this teretz that the whole Welt says that the Maram Rothenberg was a big chassid. He languished in prison for another 13 years and passed away in prison because he was a chassid gadol. But the Maram doesn't like it because that's, what do you mean you're a chassid? A Kollel Yisrael needs you. What do you mean you're a chassid? Who are you to decide that you're a big chassid? He doesn't like the teretz. It's unbelievable. So he says it was a very calculated cheshbon. Unbelievable chiddush. Just that balabata shavort, but it's like it's not dripping with lumdas, but it's practicality. He said, what's the reason why they said you're allowed to redeem a Talmud Chacham? Again, I'm adding what I think the Marshal is saying. Because Shaloi Tishtachach Torah Yisrael. And that's the most important thing. We see in the Holocaust, there were people that, like Lamoshel, two big tzaddikim that lived here in New York, the Bavitcher Rebbe and the Satmar Rebbe, they were both saved with special treatment. Many of the Chassidim that saved their Rebbes themselves didn't manage to get out.
The Zionists,
That's the irony. And that was the irony. And the Nazis, themselves, saved the Frierdiker Rebbe. There's a book about this from Rabbi Metzger. It's unreal. It's unreal, the story, but it's true. So the shaila is how did people do such a thing? The answer is that because that's the din. It was probably we don't know the back end deals. No one's going to ever know in both these tzaddikim what were the back end deals. But for the head of the German intelligence and personally be involved in every detail, bringing the Frierdiker Rebbe and his family, putting them in a house in Berlin, personally sending his men to. There was some deals there. We're never going to know what the deals.
Maybe it was a Jew. Maybe it was a Jew.
I don't know. There was something there. There was something there. Rachmana litzlan, and the Nazis wanted lahashmed laharig, and this guy, Mr. Canaris, personally sent his top guys to save the Frierdiker Rebbe's family, brought them to Berlin, kept them in safety. Said that there was some deal there. So the shaila,
when Hashem decides something,
obviously that's as obvious. But the Siddim put in their effort.
Wait, is it published a story? It's really published.
Yeah, it's a book. It's from the Inferno. From Rabbi Alter ben Tzia Mitzke, who is a very choshev Talmud Chacham. So the answer is that Shaloi Tishtakach Torah Yisrael is a very important thing. So it says the Marshal, he made a cheshbon like this. What's going to happen? He's going to be redeemed. What's the king going to do now when all other little rulers in Europe, they're going to capture Gedol Yisrael? And it's worth it because they're going to find out that ain't point the Shur Yisrael, but for Gedol Yisrael, shiny. So he said, Mutav Shetistakach Chochma Yiseda Sheb Yisrael Mishetistakach Torah Lagamri. He says he wasn't a fool. He knew that he was a Gadol Ador. And Siddush Sfarim say, especially after he was Sovel Inuyim, that he came to such unbelievable levels in Kedusha that it's unbelievable. But he knew that if he's going to stay in jail, then they're going to stop capturing Gedol Yisrael, and then maybe Rachmana litzlan, his gadlus will go to the grave, but at least Torah will stay by Yidden because other Gedol Yisrael, which is not a greater to him, are not going. He writes, Shema'oz nifsek. That from when this story happened, they kept on killing Juden. I mean, but this thing that they used to capture Gedol Yisrael, stopped. That was it. It was a public thing to the extent that Rosh did run away, and he went to, and then the government in Germany saw how foolish they were, and they sent shluchim and they promised him Horem Ugvos, and he said, "No way. I'm never coming back to Germany." But that was the cheshbon. So this was a very interesting thing that he made a cheshbon. So that's the bottom line. The Mashal holds that when it's a konas nefashis, you're allowed to pay yoysim b'chdei demeim. But you see here, even in the Mashal, that you have to sometimes make cheshbonis. Even though when you're allowed to pay more money, sometimes you make a cheshbon. Now we're gonna talk in a minute about negotiating with Hamas. But before we get to Hamas, just to finish, the other shittas, however, disagree. The Maram Malublim, read inside, 7 lines from the top. Omnam, the first word of the line is Rottenberg. Omnam ayin b'shut Maram Malublim, shenishlois anar nitvas b'yad akam b'tayna shetofsim zoyna nochis. I don't know why. Just because they found a Jewish boy with a goyish zoyna and they were going to kill him. Why? I guess I don't know. Maybe Znus was on the death of the penalty of death. I don't know. Anyway, bottom line was the boy was in jail, and they caught him with a zoyna nochnis, and they were going to kill him. To goyim b'shana b'shila shubchol zesecha the ikke ketola poidenoise kamoshkasa bezgiten memzayin alf. Boarding Lakan, Ulam nearly Porsche, Shema Chaim, Liv Doisa, Yoisemich de Dama. With the Hechetese, Shayala Ladas, Liv Doisa, Yoisemich de Dama. The Maish Nosh, Shivuim, Shu, Chutz Metal, Metchoch, the Kaim alone, Ain, Poiden, Shruim, Yosef, and Remaim, Amishum Dukin, Sabur, Mishum the Lola Garba Valesi. Afana Mishach, Shaykh, each night time, Mishum Vaksham Lahorga. Leish Damit Shum Poisek, Lichte, Mulachalak, Shemaroitzim Lahorga, Shemachayam, Liv Doisa, Yoisemich de Dama. He says, they're going to kill him, this boy. He says the fact that he's with a Zoyna, that's irrelevant. You don't look and say, oh, he was with a Zoyna boy. He says, no, that's irrelevant. But what's relevant is that they won a lot of money. There's never been a posek that ever said that you're allowed to be, just because it's pikuach nefesh, you're allowed to spend more money. So all the later poskim say, how could the Maram Lubli make such a mistake? So the Fedish Toisvus and the Rosh. So the Piskei Chuvas brings that the Beis Hillel answered alumnus. He said, when did the Toisus that said that you're allowed to for pikuach nefesh spend more, that was on the side of the Gemara that held that it's because of dukkin de tzibur. But if you held the loy garba v'leisi, they're going to want to get more and more people, so it's going to be more pikuach nefesh. You're raising the stakes. And since we paskin and Shulchan Aruch get loy garba v'leisa, therefore he ignored it. It's a little bit of a shvachet teretz because he should have mentioned the toises, and I'm not. You can argue about, but anyway, it's a nice lumbus. Bottom line is, let's summarize. The Marshal says if it's pikuach nefesh, you could spend as much money as you want to save the Jew. But caveat with the story of the Marshal, you got to lose a little bit of seichel sometimes. The Maram Lublim is the opposite. At the end of the tshuva, even though he said you're not allowed to spend more money, he said my personal advice is to spend as much money as you have. He said, why? Because it says it's a Maisa Maguna. And he says, the way I know your government, this is not going to, they'll be, he says, whatever you could, just give them whatever money it is and finish off the thing. So it's interesting. You see there's gray matter in both sides. Okay. So us Lubavitch Chassidim, to find what Alter Rebbe say. I found Mamish Befedish Tshuva from the Alter Rebbe about it. To a community that was Mamish grappling with this thing. The Alter Rebbe is unequivocal. Wow. The Alter Rebbe is unequivocal that you're allowed to spend as much money to save a Jew. Doesn't matter. Alter Rebbe writes not only that, there was a Jewish community or an individual that was in jail, and he writes to Lubavitch to Siddim that I'm sending you now a note how much every person is going to give, and I don't want to have any arguments. And he says, I know that I'm giving you a note that everyone should give much more than he can afford, no arguments, and this is the way it is. I'll just read a few words.
When the Rebbeim were in jail, was there
wasn't
an effort to pay off the?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, that's not what they did. I don't know if even there was an effort in that. And the Alter Rebbe writes like this. This is the Alter Rebbe says, in other words, he holds it's according to both Lashinas. But if it's pikuach nefesh, mechuyovim kol Yisrael litin kol asher lahem l'kaim loy talmud al dam reyecha v'afilei mashovei poshe benafshe. It doesn't matter, even if it's his own fault. Who asked this yid to go into this? Who asked him? Like you have in Nebuchadnezzar that do silly things and they're caught, and then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's in sakonas nefashis mechuyovim kol Yisrael. The Alter Rebbe says only the Gemara's whole discussion ain't poidim shvur yisrael nemeim is when they were being sold lavodim l'shvachis. But if it's a sakonas nefashis, v'chuyavim kol Yisrael, and it's Allah. What's the difference of Allah and I say? If I say you have to spend 20% of your money, Allah, you have to spend your last nickel. That's what the Alter Rebbe emphasized. And the Alter Rebbe writes, I'm sending a note.
Topic over here in American jails.
Huh?
What topic in American jail? Otisville.
So
no life in
American jails, I would say it's like we said before.
we're talking about
That
like
yeah. Still, I would say that goes in. The Meiri says that when the Gemara says that all shvuim are b'chlal sakona when they're in the hands of the goyim, he says it depends. There's two levels. There is if it's iskei moment, and then we say it's not really sakonas nafoshes, but it's a sakona, and then there is that when the Gemara said that any shavui is sakonas nafoshes, it didn't mean Otisville. Didn't mean Otisville. Still, there is there is a chiluk if there is iskei nafoshes or not iskei nafoshes.
Basha said his life was in danger a couple of times.
So
It seems like one thing to talk about giving money, but then exchanging.
So then it depends if there's taka going there. So you have to be done. Calling in lagufa.
They're not asking for money from us.
Right. We'll get to mas in a second. Bottom line. So this is what the Alter Rebbe paskins. So the Alter Rebbe paskins that this whole thing is only lavodim l'shvachis, stakonas nefoshes. Free to spend as much as they can spend. Now let's talk about.
Who's he passing like? He's
like Toysus. He's passing like Toysus. He's passing unequivocally like Toysus. He's adding a few words of Asbora. Now Alter Rebbe writes that I'm writing a note right now. He's writing it the letter. He says I'm sending you a note. Everyone should give money, and I don't want to hear any complaints. He says
Ashkenazi community.
Yeah, this is Lubavitch community somewhere. Someone was in jail. A community was in danger. He says, "Be'emes koshel ha'moed lahari charoches lahat latolos haklolos anshlei shleimenu ki lo yinelu mimenu chas v'shom tzuk itim asher nizdalda lamoed parnosas anshlei shleimenu." He says, however, achehecher chlo yiguna v'ro shio ki ashot tzrich lekach ki ev shelakabel nadoves chishma esach otzim v'sivav al pischei nedivim b'mayin erach lavakish tachenunim al-kein al-achetz isiyuni laver al medoisei laharim kol kashof. And he said, I'm sending out a note, and this you got to give. Okay. Bottom line, when it comes now, so there was a shaila that's in I looked at piles and piles of stuff. There was a shaila that was asked when Nebuchadnezzar was 100 Eden that were caught up in Antebi. So there's a shaila about this in the from the Rishon Letzion and Rabbi Yosef Zachariah Lebarofa. Yabia Omer. So
It's your side is tomorrow.
oh wow! So they had it's a very long tshuva. And he says basically that if you hold like the opinion that you could spend for Sakanas Navashas as much as you want, so maybe you could even though usually for prisoners should be 1 for 1. So if Yosim Kedamein, you can give 1,000 prisoners for 1. The issue is that there is a chash that these prisoners that you're freeing are going to Rahman al kill other Yidden.
That's what happened now.
So I want to say, before I'm going to say the word from Rabbi Yosef, because everyone's going to jump on me, it could be things changed from 1975, 76 to today. Because he says that, look, he brings alumnus. He says that the Gemara says, and the Rambam Paskins, that if they tell a Jew, they tell a group of Jews, deliver 1 Jew, we'll kill him, or we'll kill all of you. So they all have to get killed. He says, but he brings a chaznish. Chaznish says, if you see that there is a chetz, or there's a grenade flying, and there's a group of 10 Yidden standing there, and 1 Jew, and you with your hand, you have a split second to the side. It's a theoretical question. There's the famous, railroad question. This is the shaila that the chaznish was done. He didn't want to mention the name, the famous railroad question. He said it in his own words. So you would think that it's a double pashut that you don't make such moral judgments. He says no. He says you should definitely with your hand make it that you go to the 1 person and not kill the 10. Why? He says, when did the Gemara say by Sheva Bas Bichli, this whole thing that this is Staman Achzorius. You're not saving anyone. You're killing someone really. Lamaid. So it's not the pshat that Api Torah and the hefts of the thing that we say that the blood of 1 man and 10 men is equal. It's not the pshat. It's just the pshat is that the Torah says you're not allowed to stamaz. I take 1 person and deliver him to lahariga. Staman achzorius is the words that Avad Yosef. It's stam. It's you didn't Mashenkin here with this ma'isa. Your ma'isa is atzol. You're moving away the railroad, the grenade from 10 people. You're doing a ma'isa atzol. So who says over here that we shouldn't make a cheshbon 1 versus 10? Okay. They're opening up a Pandora's box, and now I don't want to go into this here. But bottom line is that he said the same thing here. The Ravad Yosef said that look, when you're freeing 1,000 prisoners for 1, what you're doing now is you're not killing Yidden. If they will later go kill Yidden, right now you're being matzel Yidden. And number 2, he says, it's chasofik. Who says they're later going to go kill Jews? So the thing is like this. Maybe in 1975, the who says question was a who says. I think it's been proven by now that, like someone just mentioned, that one of the main guys involved in what's happening now, Rahman al-Islam, has been freed in the deal that the Socialist and Gilad Shalit. So it's I'm not sure that this svara already applies anymore. So this svara that Avad Yosef said is in Suffolk Moitzim Devante. Right now, there's 1 Jew and 1,000 Arabs in jail. Number 1, no problem. If you hold like Tosfos, you can go, and Alter Rebbe holds that way. You can maybe they're going to kill later Jews. These 1,000 ain't Suffolk Moitzim Devante. But someone could argue that today it's not a Suffolk anymore. So these guys, it's Avada. So the only thing you would have to rely is to say that the mice of what I'm doing now, I'm not doing a mice of killing the Yid. The mice I'm doing is a mice stam. But even then, it's a little bit of a... What do you mean? You're saving 100 hostages, but you know what they just showed, what they're capable of doing. You're going to save 100 hostages, and you're bringing on a calamity on 6 million Jews. So I'm not saying any further. I'm putting it out on the table. As of now, hopefully, we're never going to get to the child because they're all going to be freed. But the bottom line is, many poskim, Bechlolam Abaroshim Avad Yosef in the Entebbe case, Baruch Hashem, it ended very differently, that Israel was able to free them. But he felt that it was mutter it was mutter to negotiate and to give them, even though they have very wild demands. Let's do quickly the other two shilas.
Israelis go and kill them afterwards. They let them go and they find
The problem is they're not doing it. That's as we see. Okay.
We don't know if see their life.
All right.
We don't know.
Okay. Two more questions. They said that on Friday that Israel announced that everyone should go from the north to the south. My question is, again, the Israeli government didn't ask me or you. Obviously, when they announced that, so Hamas knows that if there's any Jews that are that they should take them to the south. So
Hamas just announced this morning to stand them with a gun and tell them they cannot leave.
We restore
They're
water
their
supply
own
to
people.
Gaza.
right. So
Already we're weakening.
so the shaila is, are Pidin and Mechuyev to do this or not? So the Rambam writes, it should sort him alir letov. So ein makifin oisam arba ruchaser, elo misholosh ruchaser, umanikim mochin livroyach, lakol mish yirtze limolat al nafshi, shenem avayitzbal midon, kasher tziv Hashem as Moshe v'yeshvu alom zeh shebekach tzivol. There's a big machlokes in the Rishonim if this is also about malchemes mitzvah, because malchemes mitzvah they said you have to kill them. So does this apply also to malchemes mitzvah? I would say that even though today we're dealing with a malchemes mitzvah, but that's not all the poskim would agree that if a citizen wants to run away, you have to leave place, because the whole svara they're saying about malchemes mitzvah is that because the Torah said like the Chayim kol neshama, so how are you going to let some of them run away? But in this malchemes mitzvah, it's true. It's a malchemes mitzvah to help Yidden Shabbat miyatzor, but they're not from Shiva Amomim. You could say all kinds of nice drushy things, but they're not from the Shiva Amomim. That's true. That's true. We'll talk about it now. One more thing. There's calls from the whole world that Israel should use, should take into account innocent civilians. So the shaila
is maybe a sheker.
Okay, so
we're starting on the wrong foot.
I want to ask, Al Pi Halacha, is there such a thing? So I think there's three nakudas here. Number one, the laws of war. We don't find in the Torah, forget, we find that the Malchemes Rishus, you're supposed to kill Kol Zocher. There's a machlokes, the Minchas Chinuch says, Kol Zocher means from the age of 13 and up, but l'chayda by goyim there's no din of, or it means from when he's a ben das and up. But the bottom line is that when you come in for a malchama, you're supposed to kill every male. So what are you telling me that al pi din there's such a thing as protecting innocent civilians? The din is that when you go out to malchama, you're supposed to kill every male above the age of gadlus, which is maybe the age of 13 or maybe a little above. So it's very hard to see. We don't find an halacha. I mean, I'm looking, I'm like pulling at strings because I'm not. It's clear you're supposed to kill every person adridita, and so it doesn't seem that al pi din there's such a thing. Another thing is if you tell them that there's a mokum lebroyach and they don't run away, so they're not innocent anymore. A third nakuda is, and this is I think a very nice nakuda. In this one a Mizrachi Rav Sefer Mizrach Shamash, he writes like this: that the Rambam writes that why did the Anshe Shechem why were they mechuyev misa? Because they saw what Shechem and Chavor did to Dina, and they did nothing. So the Ran asks on the Rambam, what were they supposed to do? What were they supposed to do? It was their king. It was their king. But what were they supposed to do? It was Oinus. Yeah, but Oinus Rachmona Batri, the king and his son did this. What were they supposed to do? So the one answer you can give, this guy says that one answer you can give, two answers. One is that there's a lot of poskim that say that by going there's no such a thing as Oinus. By Jews, we say oinus rachmana pater. By going, there's such a thing as oinus. There's no such thing as an oinus. There's no such thing as an oinus. So therefore, because they were mechuyev to take care of something they didn't do, it's a chayiv misa. Another thing is, another teretz. The Haflah says in Yevamis, there's a joke.
Huh?
According to this, yeah. But there's a second mahalach that's a little more nuanced. You know the joke, they say this person, they said, hey, Moshe, come on, say l'chaim with us. So he said, no, I can't. I said, why? I made a neder, I'm not going to drink. He said, don't worry. We'll have 2 men hold you, and 1 man is going to, he said, oy bazoi, let 1 hand hold me, let 1 man hold me, and 2 men should be pouring down. So the poskim talk about this. The Haflaw says that if a guy said that, he can't say oinas rachmona patri. If he enjoyed it, he can't say oinas rachmona patri, because then it's, how can you say oinas even if it was beoinas? So another svara that you could say here is that when could the citizens of Gaza say that they're beoinas, that the Hamas is standing and not letting them move, is if they clearly are not sameach with what's being happened. But if they're giving mayim, umazon, and candy, and shelter, and it's clear beyond any doubt that every one of those residents are semeach, b'simcha atzuma about what's happening, so they can't be an oinus. So how are they an oinus? So they what Hamas is doing, they're mechuyev to be done. They're mechuyev to be done. They're not being done. Why? Because there's an oinus. But if they were unhappy with Hamas is doing, besides the fact that they elected them as a government, we all understand that. But say someone's gonna say right now they were not interested. They originally elected them. But what's the difference? Right now they're mechuyev, they are mechuyev to be done, just like the Anshe Shechem when it's Chayiv Misa, because they saw what Shechem and Chamer did to Dina and they weren't done. I was an oinus they couldn't do. Doesn't matter. They're mechuyev Misa. So the same thing here. Every one of there's no such a premise. There's no such a thing that they're innocent civilians. There is no one innocent there. There is no one innocent there. So what do you mean innocent civilians? Again, I'm not talking to the press. I'm just talking what's be'emes the din. What's the nafkamina between the 3 reasons I just said? So if you say that you're allowed to kill civilians because heimnis chayvu benafsham, because you gave them away, that's not relevant today because the Hamas is standing there not letting the civilians run away. But if you talk about the first and third reason, that according to Torah, Milchama does not comply with what quote unquote is international law. I'm not an expert in international law, and I don't know if it's really true that international law applies to what's going on in Gaza anyway. But because they're allowed to go on appeal law, and it's just that the the UN likes to apply double standard. But besides that, I'm just saying be'emes apid Torah. Milchama, there's no such a thing as there's no such a thing in Milchama. Milchama, you kill them ad ridata. So you're mechuyev to go Milchama ad ridata. And the second and the third thing also, which is there is no innocent civilians there. They're mechuyev to be done the Anshe Hamas, and they're not. Oinus is no such a thing a time of goyness for a goy, especially these goyim, that there is no oinus. There's sameach b'simchosa, and that's a huge simcha for them. Lahashmid laharig la'abed. The Eibishter should help that kol machshavosim should be turning around the rosham. Since we established that b'toyra that they're all mechuyev misa, so if any of them go out and alive, they should they should say halal agodol and do tshuva.
Finish them. We have a million minutes. That's all right.
I remember hearing a shir that B'shas Muhammad, the Iftar from the Sarah Sidirbis no less, well, Sirsach doesn't apply that B'shas Muhammad is just different, and there's this politically correct nonsense that the storts are thinking about what Emma says.
Right. Furthermore, Shabbos, I was saying, we have a whole suffix in Rishonim and Poskim if you should put yourself into danger to save another person. But saying Shabbos, it seems that those rules, that whole thing is suspended when it comes to Milchama. Because obviously, when you're going to war,